Have a really good think, because somebody you know could earn you a lot of money for very little effort. Think, who do you know that wants to buy a property in Spain? A colleague, a mate, someone in your family, a friend of a friend? If you know someone, go to welcome-estates.com and click the Refer a Friend link. If they buy, you'll pocket a nice chunky thank you from one of Spain's leading estate agents. T's and C's apply. All details at welcome-estates.com.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you're well, and I hope you've had a great Easter break and back into the groove of things. Now we're on a Tuesday. So, a couple of predictions and a couple of previews from me tonight. I'm going to keep it really reasonably short. Yes, I know that I say that quite often, but I'm not going to break these fights down too much. First of all, we've got Joyce and Zhang. It's a fun fight. I just see that as a really good, competitive heavyweight fight. There are bound to be explosions, there are bound to be actions. No one's ever going to mistake this for example, Buddy McGirt and Pernell Whitaker, two defensive geniuses in the ring. I think we know what we're going to get here. A good, exciting fight. Great matchmaking from Frank Warren. It keeps people interested. Zhang's a known quantity. Most people remember his narrow loss to Filip Hrgovic. A lot of people thought it was unlucky in that fight. Some cried robbery. I certainly don't think it was a robbery. I think the whole talk of robbery is somewhat confusing when you have a very close fight and you think Zhang perhaps edged that fight as I did and it goes the other way. Remember, sometimes rounds are very difficult to split and this is the fight game. Sometimes it's subjective. So I thought Zhang was unlucky against Hrgovic, but I certainly didn't think it was a big robbery that everybody talked about. But he's a good fighter, just like Joyce. He's an Olympic silver medalist, and he's also a southpaw. Again, just to dispel a myth, people always think that southpaws are very, very difficult. Well, it depends if you're a punching southpaw, an aggressive southpaw, a defensively slick southpaw, a southpaw who can move bi-directional, or you're just effectively a very conventional, very almost static southpaw like Zhang, and I think that's a category that he falls into. Joyce, who's like the reincarnation of probably the second coming of George Foreman, certainly not at the level of the first coming, but he's a good fighter, he's a fun fighter, he's full of heart, he's got an incredible chin, he's a big puncher, he's strong, he walks forward, and he looks to get the job done and wear you down. One of the unusual things about Joyce is the fact that for an orthodox fighter, he probably spends 80 or 90% of the time going anti-clockwise to his right. Now that's quite offsetting for fighters, it's quite unusual. But in this instance, it walks onto a southpaw backhand, a southpaw left cross, and it might narrow the gap, if you like, for Zhang. And that's his best chance. Zhang's best chance is to get busy and get landing, and to try and topple the big oak tree. Will Joyce go bi-directional, or will he just go to his favoured to his right and effectively walk onto the southpaw's shot? It's a gamble, but I think no matter what happens in this fight, we're looking at a long night, we're looking at a lot of oohs and ahs from the crowd, and I hate to go with conventional wisdom, but in this fight in particular, I'm going to look for Joyce to wear Zhang down. Zhang will have his moments in the early rounds and the mid rounds. He'll dig deep, he'll bite, he'll hang tough, and he'll be fighting right until the end. But I think a little bit like Joseph Parker, it's likely that he's going to either get stopped late on or suffer a lot of damage and lose quite a comfortable points decision. So that's my prediction. It's Joyce late or on points, but for those people who know me, they know I don't like to sit on the fence. I'm not one of these people who give you 5 scenarios, so I'm going to stick my neck out and I'm going to say Joyce wins on points. And I'm also not going to mention any belt that's attributed to this fight. It's a good old-fashioned contenders fight between two mid to fringe top heavyweights. It's a good fight, and good luck to both. Now then, talk about quantum leaps. So I'm now going to move on to Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. in the early days when Ryan Garcia turned pro, I was a real fan. Lots of people thought thought Luke Campbell would beat Garcia. I think Garcia was actually a slight favourite going in, but I thought Garcia would stop Campbell, and I thought it was massively impressive how he did that. Yes, he had to come off the floor. That's what fighters do. But he got up off the floor to take Campbell out with some vicious punching, and who can forget the way he just whipped that left hook into the southpaw Campbell's ribs. Brilliant performance. Tank's been an elite level fighter, or bordering on the elite status now for what seems like forever. And it's a case with him, it's a case of spit or get off the pot. He's a brilliant fighter, he's unbeaten. All but 2 of his fights have ended inside the distance. He's hovered around from super featherweight to lightweight, toyed around with light welterweight, but ultimately looks a beast, and he looks solid at lightweight, and that's the weight that both fighters will be campaigning in next weekend. However, this is a catch weight, and they're just 1 pound above the lightweight division. But it's a fantastic fight between universally ranked number 2 and number 3 at lightweight. And wouldn't we just love to see the winner of that fight against Devin Haney or Lomachenko, whoever wins that one. So this is going to be a brilliant fight. A couple of years ago when I did a prediction on this and I talked about this and I was waxing lyrical about Garcia, I thought Garcia would beat Davis. I thought it would be a little bit too big for him, potentially bully him. And I just thought Garcia had that X factor about him, whereas he would really, really take some stopping. Of course, he's had time out of the ring. He's had a couple of fights since then. And even though his last 2 fights have been relatively impressive, for me, there's just a tiny bit of something missing from his confidence, and I don't know what that is. So Tank is the opposite. Super, super confident, a brilliant punch picker, a walk forward counter puncher, which is quite unusual, very, very precise, and of course he's a southpaw. Garcia's boxed several southpaws before, obviously Luke Campbell to note, but Campbell was a very, very tall, huge, rangy southpaw, and he exposed Garcia's weakness, which is he always steps back in a straight line and lifts his chin up, and he has that broom handle spine, which makes him vulnerable, especially for the left, the overhand left. But Garcia's not going to have as much success early on with the left as I thought Campbell had, simply because there's massive difference in reach, massive difference in height between the two. This for me is the fight of the year. It's an elite fight between 2 absolutely brilliant fighters, and once again, no belts on the line specifically. Does it matter? It's to fight for the right, to fight the man for the unified at lightweight. I actually can't wait for this fight. The irony, those who know me know that I boycotted the Zone, and I won't even bother going into the details why now, because it's become a little bit tedious. But I won't be watching the Zone, and unfortunately I'll be missing out on what's the hottest fight right now. And for a couple of years I have said this is the hottest fight in boxing. Everybody's focused on Anthony Joshua and Fury and Usyk and Joshua and Wilder and all the big heavyweights, and I really couldn't give a monkey's about any of those fights. I'm much more focused myself on the featherweights up to the welterweights. That's where you get the action, that's where you get the skill, the power, the speed, the drama. I think with Garcia and Davis, we're going to get a lot of drama, we're going to get a lot of skill. And once again, in a fight that everybody's predicting is going to be a stoppage either way because of Garcia's massive power in his left, and Tank's really got power in both hands, I'm going to put my neck out once again and say this goes the distance. I think it'll be an amazing fight. It'll be a fight where you score what you like. Both will have moments of success, but I do feel that Tank is a little bit tighter defensively. His balance is a little bit better. He's more tucked in. He has a little bit more patience. And I can see in the rounds that matter, he's going to land the better, more accurate, precise shots. And he will win the fight on points. I think it'll be a close fight, but I think there'll be a little bit of room in Garcia's favour, so there's no cry of robbery. But I can't wait for the fight. Every time I want to just put my head in the sand and forget about boxing, fights like this happen. Hopefully there's no controversy, nobody gets hurt, there's no pushing and shoving, and shenanigans, and we just get a fantastic fight that's reminiscent of the Fab Four and the golden era of the 70s and the 80s. Here's hoping, here's wishing, and most of all, I hope everybody enjoys the fights, enjoys the probably quite narrow predictions that I've done. I haven't gone into massive detail technically, but that's how I see it. So it's Joyce to win on points in a thumper, and it's Tank Davis to win on points in a close fight, but a well-deserved win. I hope you're all well, have a good evening, and I shall see you soon.
Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com.